So it's day 63 of the Iran war. Or is it? White House officials claim that the United States is no longer at war with Iran, yet President Trump seems to be reviewing options for increasing military action. What is actually going on? Well, combat operations started on the 28th of February and there was a ceasefire called on the 7th of April. But a ceasefire doesn't mean the end of operations. So why was it that a White House official claimed that hostilities had now been terminated? The answer, of course, lies with the fact that President Trump never sought congressional approval for this conflict, and therefore under the 1973 War Powers Act, he has 60 days to either withdraw forces or to seek congressional approval. Given the deep unpopularity of the war in America, it's very unlikely that would be achieved. Meanwhile, there are reports suggesting that President Trump is looking at a resumption of high-level military action against Iran. If they does prosecute that, what will be the main targets that he'll be looking to prosecute? What is very clear is that President Trump has been consistent that the main effort of this war is to stop Iran securing a nuclear weapon. There's two ways of doing that, either through negotiation or through the use of military action to destroy its capability. It feels like America's losing confidence in the negotiation route and therefore might potentially increase its targeting of the Iranian nuclear potential targets. Here's a selection of them here. You'll remember Fordo from earlier last year when Operation Midnight Hammer involved B-2 bombers delivering 20,000-pound bunker buster bombs. We can see one on test here that go deep underground before exploding, that are a unique capability to the B-2. Of course, were they effective? One of the challenges when you look at satellite imagery of the region, and we see some of it here, is that at surface level you can see holes where those bombs went through. But as a former weapons instructor on the fighter community, I can tell you it's one thing to know that you've hit a target, it's quite another to do battle damage assessment of whether you've actually destroyed it. The target itself is deep underground, very difficult to tell. So almost certainly what's been happening since the ceasefire has been in place is America and Israeli intelligence has been using all means at its disposal to try to work out how many of these facilities were destroyed, how many were simply just damaged in some way, and how many are still fully operational. That would enable the creation of a new master target list, potentially for Operation Midnight Hammer 2. Meanwhile, across in the Lebanon, although the ceasefire is meant to be in place, the reality on the ground is it feels like full-scale warfighting, as the Israeli Defense Forces seek to defeat Hezbollah, the proxy of Iran. Exactly what the Israeli Defense Forces' objective are is not entirely clear. They clearly want to make a buffer zone of some form to protect northern Israel from attack. But at the moment, as is clear from some of these strikes away from the buffer zone, it's quite likely that they'll want to go all the way to the Litani River. They've done that before, but such an operation will be dangerous and it will take time, potentially weeks or even months. It is worth remembering as well that at the start of the ceasefire, President Trump did not want Netanyahu's actions here to compromise the success of the peace talks with Iran. But those peace talks seem to have stalled, they're not going anywhere, and it's quite possible now that it suits President Trump's agenda to give Prime Minister Netanyahu a bit more rope, because the more pressure that's brought to bear on Hezbollah, the more pressure potentially is getting brought to bear on Iran to bring the war to an end. What is absolutely clear, though, is that the level of destruction being wreaked by the Israeli Defense Forces, this is not in response to simple ceasefire violations. This is a resumption of full-scale war and a clear intent to clear this whole area of Hezbollah forces. The irony, of course, here is that despite the US and Israeli military dominance, they've not actually been able to solve the core underlying problems. Iran retains the ambition of developing a nuclear program, and although the war has undoubtedly degraded its ability, it will rebuild, and in the absence of robust negotiations, the danger is history will repeat itself.